7 o'clock. I'd like to call the Freiburg Community High School September 21st, 2017 Board of Education meeting to order. Mrs. Mead, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Parrish? Mrs. Staub? Here. Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
Mr. Madrell?
Here.
Mr. Haas? Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Miller? Here. Mr. Gauck?
Here, that's quorum. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda changes?
There are none.
At this time, I would like to welcome the public this evening. There's either a whole bunch here. If anybody would like to make any comments before we go on, this is your time.
Go Cardinals.
Okay.
Go Cubs.
Go Cubs. I'm glad to see you're suffering. Okay, we'll move on from that, and we'll need to approve the consent agenda. And as everybody's had a chance to look it over, are there any questions, corrections, or additions to the consent agenda? If not, I need a motion to accept.
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Miller, second by Mrs. Staub. I will get a roll call of that. We'll start with Mrs. Staub this evening.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we're down to number 6, committee reports, strategic planning committee meeting.
Okay, well, we had, I was like,
Would you like to?
Can we talk? I can talk, yep. We had a meeting on August 14th. I'm sorry, not the 14th, it was the 17th. There was quite a bit we talked about. We put a list of things we were concerned about down, to include fiscal responsibility, buildings and grounds, improving facilities, college readiness. Most of that was in the minutes. We agreed to do a survey, to survey the staff for what they think our district goals should be. Also, Mr. Craig sent out some information on superintendent goals and setting goals for him and evaluations. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We've gotten back our the staff evaluation of the survey and some information on that. I don't know if you want to talk about that now.
Sure, we can. So I actually, this was my second attempt. I had put out, and I will admit it was probably not a very well worded request for the faculty or areas of improvement. It wasn't nearly that clear. And so I didn't get very many responses, so I decided to do a Google form, which is awesome. And so the Google form is in the packet. And so basically it says, click on the 10 items you think are the most important areas for focus of the Board of Education. And so doing that, in all of your folders, there's the results. So the top at 67% was curriculum. Then the second was school facilities, the interior. Third was fiscal responsibility. Fourth was classroom space, and then fifth was class size. And so I sent this to all the teachers and the staff. So I think there was 51, or I forget how many, 58, and I think a total of about, it was a pretty good percentage. I think 38 out of 51 or 40 out of 51 or something like that filled it out. So kind of gives us a little bit of information. And then down at the bottom, there were areas that I did not list for them to check off, so you kind of take a look at what those are. So I don't know if anybody had any questions about that.
Questions, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else you need me to say. I planned on scheduling another meeting. I'd like to get with everybody to talk about what the results of this survey and see where we want to go from there. And also talk about the principles of our superintendent's evaluation process and things like that.
I think that there are services out there. I know the School Board Association has a service where they would actually come in and help you set district goals. And I do think that's probably one of the big focuses that we need to have is what are our district goals. So, and I had sent out real quickly after that meeting, I just went online. You click on school goals, you can find a million of them online. But you know, it really depends on what direction you guys want to go. If we want to bring somebody in and sit down and do that, or if we want to just, you know, Google district goals and kind of look at district goals. And we could do the same kind of thing, come up with a series of, I don't know, a dozen or 15 district goals. We could put a survey out. Now, the only issue with this type of survey, they have to have a Google account. And so I know everybody in school has one. But if we put it out to the community, that you know, they would have to have the Google account. And like I said somewhere at maybe the committee meeting, that I think it's important that we have some kind of control over the survey so that we get a true reading of what the results are, and not skewed by somebody that possibly has taken the survey 25 times. And so, you know, if we could use that kind of a device to get information if we would like. So we can, you know, we can schedule another meeting and go that direction. I do think, especially when we talk to Mr. Dirks, that the district goals are important to kind of evaluate me.
Absolutely.
And so, so I do think they're, you know, we need to probably have something done.
Yeah, I will send out something, I think we can make something like that. So we'll schedule another strategic meeting.
All right, questions for Mrs. Miller or Mr. Frankie?
So, is there a time that I want in on the survey we want to do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We can give you a time.
Absolutely.
I definitely want something to get the survey.
Absolutely need more engagement, so.
Okay, any more? If not, we will move on to item D, building and grounds committee meeting.
So we just finished having building grounds meeting, talking about the heating and air conditioning, potential needs on the site. It's a follow-up to, I guess, last year, the year before. And people described it as the boiler project. And so we talked to, and come up with the name of the company.
Rick Consulting.
Rick Consulting, about the different options that are available for the possibility of making some changes to the facility. And then with that, we ended up giving them some more work to go out and try to refine some of those options so that we could decide if we're going to move forward with something. And then we'll reloop once they get back with some of that information. So still working, trying to refine the different options and then decide what we can afford, what makes the most sense, and then tie it back into the strategic plan so that we don't do something that would go against that plan. So, but we are kind of on a tight time frame, which we discussed, and I believe we need to get something probably bid by January, February at the latest, if we're going to do it this summer. So we will see where we go from here. I think it was a good meeting. I think we got a lot of different ideas from a lot of different places. Dean talking about maybe putting down the roof over in the weight room. We had to put some new units in. I like that idea. It might even get some synergy because we might be able to eliminate some that are currently there. So a lot of good stuff going on there. And then I would like, Greg, you can chime in on some of the work that's been done on the site for the buildings and grounds, because even though it wasn't discussed tonight at the meeting, there's been a whole lot going on here trying to improve the facility. So, Greg, if you could share some of those, that would be helpful. You can do it in your report. Okay.
So wait till then to do that.
You can do it in your report.
Until then, any questions for Mr. Reynolds? If not, we move on to the Student members report. Mr. Harris, do you have anything for us this evening?
A little bit.
Okay.
Homecoming week was last week and it went really well. Student council's really kind of gotten the hang of it. We've got down to the science. We got a lot of good feedback and plans for changes in next year. Also, with extracurriculars, the football team has done a really great job of, still like pushing through, even though a lot of the team has kind of gotten ill or injured. Like they've been really kind of keeping spirits up. And the Spirit Club has also done a good job of keeping the games really high energy still. Band is making some progress. We've got first and second movements done, and we're kind of moving forward on that. We've got a competition on Saturday, and volleyball is playing tonight actually against Salem. The PSAT students just registered today. Well, today was the last day to register, and the number of students is about 15% up from last year. It's about 65% of the class, and last year we had roughly 50. And this is a really kind of good thing because a lot of kids haven't taken a standardized test since about 8th grade. And so all the juniors are kind of expected to take the SAT in the spring, and it's just a really good practice for them. And I think it's definitely in the school's best interest and the students to kind of promote taking this test now, especially since it's only $15, and now you can get fee waivers if necessary. And then just sort of general things, there have been a lot of ants in the north wing that students have been kind of noticing, like mostly in the gym band room area. And I think students, now that we're kind of getting closer to the quarter, or where the quarter would normally be, students are really kind of appreciating the cumulative grade. It doesn't really make a difference, but just kind of thinking about it, it's kind of nice to have that buffer between now and the end of exams. And that's about it.
Any questions for Mr. Harris? Okay, we'll move on to the principal's report. Mrs. John, what do you have for us this evening?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Jill Dahlke. She's our student faculty member tonight. She's an outstanding teacher in our math department and one of our new instructional coaches. So, welcome, Mrs. Dahlke. We have a new 3D laser printer down in the vocational department, and it's in Mr. Doug Haas's classes, and they have been practicing, so I have a few samples to show you. Pass those around. They're just getting their feet wet, so they're just working on some names, but they did do a midget. You can pass those around too. And the midget is pretty impressive how detailed and clear it is, and it only took 4 minutes to complete. So Mr. Haas and the wood shop, I'm sure, are going to be getting a lot of requests for different things, and to put that midget and other symbols for the school on different decorations and interior stuff, exterior stuff, golf tournament, you name it. But Jane, get your own tag there. 4 minutes for that midget, and the detail is pretty impressive. And the fun part too is that they can also do this on glass. We have not had any samples yet of this, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that laser printer works on that. So hopefully we'll have some samples to show you. But pretty nice, and the kids do all the design on the computer. They're bringing in other designs, and very nice. So definitely up and coming, and our kids are getting the hang of it. Okay, the last time we met, we were getting ready for the solar eclipse. It was an absolutely fantastic day here at the school. The kids were phenomenal, the staff. The O'Fallon Junior High was here. They brought about 700 in total with their kids and their chaperones and teachers. They were absolutely fantastic, no issues with them whatsoever. And in fact, our Midget Athletic Booster Club opened up the concession stands both for our kids and for junior high. I will tell you that junior high kids love candy and sugar and soda because the MABC cleared $1,600 in sales that day alone. I want to say thanks to Allison Elby, Ashley Elby, Julie Range, and Brenda Blasdale because they were working their tails off in those concession stands. It was about 98 degrees. Mrs. Crump got to go out. I got to go out. And then it was perfect weather for the eclipse, gorgeous. And then 45 minutes later, an hour later, storm. So all the junior high kids came into our cafeteria for about, I'd say about 40 minutes. And in here, when they left, there was not a scrap of paper, anything, junk. This place was immaculate. Cafeteria, here, everything. They were just amazing. So that was a really great experience. Academic stuff, I'm going to touch upon the PSAT for a second. What's really awesome about the number of kids taking that as well is that PSAT will then send a free report and set up a free study plan in areas that students need work on for the SAT through Khan Academy, which is free. So if the student takes the PSAT and they have their Khan Academy account, PSAT will then help develop a strategic study plan for them in areas that they were doing poorly in on that test. So we get a lot of people asking about SAT practice, and instead of, again, paying $600 to go to a study group or extra classes,
Oh, no, I'm the typical guys.
kids are able to do this for free. So I think that's just great, and having so many kids take that and tie to it is perfect. Couple other things about SAT prep. Math and English, those departments are way on top of it. They're adding more SAT prep and practice to the curriculum without losing the integrity of the curriculum, because we don't want to sit here and teach the test. The test is a one-time thing where the curriculum is far withstanding for everything they do. But they are finding ways to incorporate more of that into the curriculum. Math is going to, they started this last week in their sophomore and junior classes. They started an SAT question set. So every other week, the math department is giving kids a Google form with 10 SAT questions. They have all week to answer the questions, and then Friday they spend 10 to 15 minutes going over them, asking questions, working them out. I think that's just awesome, and it's a little bit every other week to get them ready for what's going to happen in April. English also started last week with SAT prep. Mrs. Etter started the diagnostic SAT prep as well. She does it through a lot of the readings and questions and writings in the curriculum. So full test prep experience, we are going to set up at least one full day practice for the kids before the actual test. Going through the process last year, I think that test was so mentally taxing. It's a different way of asking the questions. It's a different way of reading the questions, so that when a lot of them saw it, they were just like shell-shocked, along the fact that it was, 6+ hours with 10-minute breaks, and they were exhausted. So I think if we can find a way to give them some expectation type practice before they go into it, I think that's going to also give them better opportunities. Overall goal, like I said, is to teach our regular curriculum. It's a very full curriculum. It's a great curriculum, but then finding ways to add that prep into it. Our curriculum committee had their first meeting on Monday. It was absolutely great. It's a great group of teachers to work with. For the curriculum committee, we have departmental representative, and then also Mr. Franking, Mrs. Ann Minard, our junior senior guidance counselor, myself, and Mrs. Kronk also sit on that. A couple of things, they talked about SAT, they've talked about assessing any curriculum changes we've done since the last 2 years. We've had curriculum changes in agriculture, we've had them in social studies, we switched math, the sequence of geometry and algebra 2. We've changed things in science, so we've done a lot of change in the last 2 years. So this year and the next year, we're really trying not to add a whole lot of other changes. We want to kind of evaluate the changes we currently have, see how that's affecting the kids, the teachers, and a lot of those teachers have new prep. So this has been a big time of change this year. So far, everybody's handling it well, but we have probably more minimal changes this year and into next year than anything else. But that's where they're starting. Community service, we are talking about finding ways to add more community service in for the kids, whether it's going to be a volunteer commitment, whether it's going to be a mandatory commitment, but we are exploring some options on that. A lot of other high schools do it. I think our kids, our coaches, our organizations do a lot of it, but we still have a good number of kids that just don't have the experience in community service, so we're thinking some options with that as well. All right, a couple other things here. New teachers, Bethany McQuiston, Megan Mitchell, and Marissa Modulin have all adjusted very, very well. I'm seeing and hearing about outstanding practices in their class. I'm getting very good response from parents and very good information back from the teachers and their mentors. Our staff that was currently here has been incredibly welcoming, supportive, and it's been a really good blend. So I'm really happy for all of that. We had a school improvement day 2 weeks ago. Chief Schutzenhofer came in and spoke to the teachers about school violence and lockdown procedures, kind of new trends, what to look for, what to do. We're exploring a few other options. talking about where some of that school violence might be going is a little bit scary. He talked about the possibility of school buses and what do we do with, there's a school bus, action and you're not around school, and it's kind of scary to think about. It makes your stomach, turn a little bit, but that's one area that they are also exploring and what they need to do to better protect our students. Faculty completed new state mandatory training on that day on cultural competency and racial bias. Our instructional coaches met to review technology platforms in the classroom, and teachers met to talk about opening activities for class to engage students. Let's see. We've got a few more mandates to go. The list of mandates for us to do every year for training is intense, and they add more every year. Mrs. Courtney Travis and Mrs. Tina Overby have put together this fabulous training for all staff personnel PowerPoint that's like probably up to about 80 slides by now of just all the training stuff we have to do regarding health and mental illness and suicide prevention. And every year, the state keeps adding more and more. These ladies update it. The grade school asked us to share it with them. The teachers all watch it. They fill out a Google form that gives us information that they have viewed it, so we have that for our records. We still have a couple training things to do. We still have to do educator ethics, but that's to be assigned here shortly. One other thing that's going to be nice for our teachers, and they don't know about this yet, is there's something called Ed Leaders Network that has previously only been available for principals and assistant principals and administrators of school. It's been free, and it's been through the Illinois Principals Association. Well, they're opening up this Ed Leaders Network to all educators in Illinois for free. And you can go on and you can watch all these different videos, whether it's mandate stuff, whether it's teacher evaluation training. But the good news is when you watch it and there's questions that go with it, it will then give the teachers credits or CPDUs that go towards their licensure, and it goes directly onto their Ellis accounts. So if a teacher needs 4 or 5 more hours and a couple more things to pick up, it's right there, and they're going to be able to use that for free. So we have registered for it. They are backlogged by a couple of weeks, but as soon as that opens up, I'll give the teachers their logins, and they can even create videos and share them with other neighboring schools, but they do get credit for watching that. So if it's another option to get credits without having to send everybody out to conferences, because it's getting pretty pricey. Evaluwise and teacher evaluation is rolling. We have new software this year called Evaluwise. It's been very easy to use so far. The trainings we had with the teachers, it's going great. This is also the first year for some of our teachers to do the student growth element. So we've been meeting with teachers on that, getting objectives set up, getting assessments set up. So it's a very lengthy process, especially for the first time that a teacher's been through it. But so far we're going step by step, and we'll make it as I don't want to say easy, but as smooth as we can, working through that process and working together just to keep moving everybody forward. Extracurriculars, a couple things, he covered it. We're definitely in full swing. Athletics, clubs, fundraisers, homecoming was fabulous. The teachers were fabulous, the kids, the carnival, the theme days, the dance, they were just really, really great. The staff and students at FCHS have had a phenomenal start to the school year. It's just been good. So that's all I got.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. Jones at this time? If not, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
All right, first thing is Senate Bill 1947, which is a morphed version of Senate Bill 1 with the evidence-based funding model, has been signed, sealed, and delivered. So that's good news. That means the state has started to make payments. By this time, we've probably received 4 or so payments. Looking at, if we use the numbers from last year, we would probably lose a little bit of money from this, but we will not know actually how much money we're going to get from the state until the ISBE actually does a study and figures out how much, once everybody, they know how much money, all their numbers from each state or each district, how much they're going to get. So that hopefully that'll be done by October or November. But until then, they're basing all their money on last year's numbers. So I'll keep you updated as time goes on. Our lighting project has taken a couple steps forward. We have ordered the bulbs. HD Supply was the lowest price for those. We did qualify for an IMEA grant, which paid for a little over $4,600 of the $8,300 cost for the bulbs. So those bulbs, we received the first shipment of the bulbs. They were back ordered. I believe the others were coming in today or tomorrow. And they have started on the central hallway. We'll start moving around, doing a lot of the public areas with the LED bulbs, and then move on and start lighting up the school. So that's a nice move. We ordered 13 high velocity bathroom hand dryers. They're actually installed in every place that had an electrical hand dryer currently. The central hallway and the locker rooms did not have electricity, so Mr. Toma and Casey are going to run electrical they need to run those. And so I highly encourage you to go wash your hands sometime tonight and check out the new hand dryers. A picture of them are on there, so hopefully that is a nice improvement. We decided just to put those in the public areas. We went around and talked to the kitchen, we talked to the nurse. They all wanted to stay with the paper towels. A lot of that had to do with picking up spills. And then we decided just to stick with those areas and just use paper towels in a limited area. Those are used a lot less, and so it just made sense to keep the paper towels in those. So there is a picture there. It's lovely. Heating and air conditioning. Mr. Alt came to me probably a month ago and asked me, did I know that our air conditioning was currently running 24/7? And I said, of course I know that. I had no idea. And so he got into the system and talked to me and decided to start shutting the system down during the nights and on the weekends. And when they did that, found out two different things, two different issues. One, the software had not been updated since 2007, which is probably when that system was put in, because it was probably put in with all the air conditioners from that 2007 bond. So he's been working with CTS, who's the company that oversees the software, trying to get that software updated. The other was a mechanical issue with the damper. So each of the rooms has a damper in the ducts that allows the airflow to come through. So once we got the air conditioning on, you could go in some rooms, you could put your hand right up next to the outlet, and there was no airflow. And so the dampers were not opening. So there's an adjustment, so we had Bello come out, and Bello and Dennis are working on trying to get the mechanical part of those fixed. So we're hopefully get that worked, and by shutting it off and monitoring the system a little bit more, we're going to be able to save some money and move forward. So we're trying. Kidget management update, put in here, last year for the first 12 or 13 days, we averaged 190 lunches a day. This year we're averaging 260 lunches a day. So that's a very positive turn. Our first bill from OPA this year was $11,000. Last year our first bill in that same amount of time was $22,000. And I don't want you to think that we're going to pay half what we did last year, but it's a good start. I put in here the feedback from the lunches has been very positive. Today was not a great day. I went in there and saw lunches and wasn't super thrilled. The biggest thing is OPA tries to cut everything very close. And so a lot of times what they've done is they've run out, like we had bacon cheeseburgers, we didn't eat bacon. Or they didn't have enough buns. And so as we're working through this process, and I've spoken with the OPA people, they're still trying to figure out how many kids will eat hamburger and how many kids will eat this. In years past, we had one option, so it's a lot easier to figure out. They're working through it. It's we're having some growing pains, but overall, with the amount of lunches that we're selling and the savings, I think it's going to turn out to be a good thing. So I've been listening to a few folks not unhappy they didn't get their bacon, which I can't really complain. The steamer, there was a big discussion on whether or not to replace the broken steamer. And the decision at this point was not to replace the steamer. The folks from Opa believe that we can get by without a steamer. We did find one that we could put in there for about $6,000. Decided as a group that we're gonna keep looking at it and kind of reassessing it as we go along. And if we need to buy a steamer, then we'll buy a steamer to replace the one we have. And so anyway, so far it's been a pretty positive experience despite the bacon. Southwest Division meeting is coming up. If you haven't spoken to Jane to let her know if you could make it, I would appreciate if you could. One of the highlights, absolutely, that night will be our own Mr. Gauk getting a recognition by the IASB. And if you talk to me nicely, I might even take the new activity van, activity bus. It'll be awesome. So that's Wednesday, October 4th in Columbia. We did have the police chief come in. I just want to touch on that quickly. One of the things they talked about is when you have a shooter, and unfortunately there was another one this week, Central Illinois. When you have a shooter, we have a lockdown, and it doesn't take a whole lot, I guess, for the shooter to shoot the lockout and pry the door open. So the big question is, how do you keep the door shut? So one of the things, I believe a district near us uses a 2x4 and some cable ties and puts a 2x4 across the jamb and cable ties the handle. So that was one of the suggestions. Another option is a device that you can, if you look at the closers of the door, there's those little arms, which probably have a name, but those, there's a piece that you can slide over that'll actually keep that door from opening up. So that, a device like that, the teacher can keep on their desk, and if there is a code red lockdown, they can quickly go over there and slide that on. They're about $80 a piece. It's the first thing I saw, so we'll keep looking. The other, and I think is probably more of a probably important issue, is most of our doors are only are keyed on one side. And so when you go and what the teachers are instructed to do is to go open the door, reach outside, lock the door, shut it, and then get everybody away from the door. If they're keyed on side, they could lock the door. You know, they're supposed to open up, take a quick look, make sure there's no students outside, pull them in, and they can quickly lock the door. In order to do that, we'd have to place the locking mechanisms, which would be expensive. We have had issues with our locks, and it probably wouldn't be a big stretch to say that replacing those locks would be a bad idea. So those are two different things that we're looking at to help protect the students and the faculty if there is a shooter in the building, we have a lockdown. So I don't know if anybody had any questions about that. I don't have a timeline of when I want to get that done.
The concerns about having a key lock on the inside with, so say they do use the key lock with exiting in case of a fire, or?
They're set up, so it would be illegal
That I was gonna say.
to not be able to open
Okay, to
that
open it,
lock and
that's
push the
what I
door
thought. I was like,
or
wait a
pull the
second.
door open,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So the
they're
locks
set up,
have
so
to.
even if they're locked, you can open it.
Yes, you have to, yes,
Okay.
yeah. It's a good question.
The steam table, still on the side, or did we?
Still on site.
Are we gonna get rid of it, or?
We will. It's not worth anything.
I didn't know if they could use the space or something
They can, but we just haven't moved it yet. Yeah.
And then, based on what you just said, can we get you to pull together a price and replace it all? So then we have an educated decision we can make.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would, I'm kind of afraid to hear what it's gonna cost. I mean, the other issue with the locks is, I mean, I can pull a janitor in here, I mean, I could, well, I don't rip my pants off, but, I mean, I've got, I don't know, 25 keys, and I don't even know where half of them go to, but, you know, we have way too many keys for the number of doors we have, but it would be something, and I will try to put something together.
Can they all be keyed the same?
The issue with that is, not everything can. So like the office is keyed separately, a certain number of people have it. You know, as a teacher, I would be concerned how many people have my door key. But,
You could do a master key and.
Which would open any door.
Right, for administration, custodial.
right, and we have
Each door
those.
be keyed separately.
And we have those. It's just, it's probably a conversation we're just gonna have, and to talk about whether or not, you know, the whole south end has the same key. You know, and we don't have an issue now with anybody getting locks, and I will tell you, the master keys are plentiful. And so there's a lot of people that have master keys that can get into different classrooms. I'm not gonna check your key.
The number of keys is how important you are. I've got one key.
So you're number one.
But it is a conversation, but that's separate from, you know, the number of keys I don't think really matters, it's the actual physically, you'd have to replace the whole lot, because we're talking about having a key from both sides. Yeah. So that's all I had.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Frankie? If not, let's see, this is our closed session.
Yeah.
At this time, we need to go, hopefully, a brief closed session meeting here to discuss employment compensation and benefits of specific employees of the district. So at this time, we need a motion to go on a closed session.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Reynolds, second by Mr., what is your name? Adrell. And we'll start the roll call with Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
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 That's, motion passes. I didn't call you Mrs. Randall or Mr. Randall.
As soon as we get done, we'll get everybody. Well, when they come in, we'll just say, was there any action in closed session? I'll say no. Or you can say there was no closed action.
There's no action in closed.
And then, so, whole business, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can just go straight there. I have it recorded, so don't do anything. Children.
We're down to item 11, act from closed session, which as of right now, there is no action on that item. So we'll go to 12, old business and the school district reorganization update.
We met, actually all four superintendents, for Freeburg High School, Freeburg Grade School, Smithton Grade School, and St. Labori Grade School, all met with Dr. Osborne and Dr. Rosberg last Friday, and kind of went through a checklist and talked about the steps to do the study. And so they've given us a little bit of work to do to gather information. Actually, Dr. Rosberg is going to do most of the collecting of the data and putting the data together. And so one of the interesting things that came about is that in order, now they're going to do the study, we think the study could actually be completed by March, which could benefit Smithton, because Smithton has to make a decision, and again, I don't want to speak for Smithton's district, but they are busting at the seams. They talked about an addition, put an addition on, so depending on the outcome of this study, if the outcome is that we should reorganize somehow, then the fact that Smithton would not have to put that addition on could be a factor in whether or not this could be beneficial. The other thing that came out of the meeting is St. Labori, even though they are not officially participating, their board will actually have to pass a resolution for them to put this on the ballot if the organization comes out, or the reorganization study comes out and says that it's a good idea. Because all those residents from St. Labori come to Freeburg, and so they would have to include that. So the study could come out and say any number of things. It could say this isn't going to work, and just be flat, it's not gonna work. Or they could do some kind of hybrid, where they say, you know, the three districts that are interested right now, Freeburg Grade School, Smithton Grade School, Freeburg High School, yes, it would be a good idea for you guys to go together. They could say, an elementary district is the best way to go. High school, stay your own district, the elementary, you guys go together. They could say Freeburg Grade School and Freeburg High School, since you're so close. So there's any number of things that could come out of the study. So, but moving on from the study, the first thing that would have to happen is we would have to form what's called the Committee of 10. And the idea is that all the superintendents and the board presidents would get together and kind of decide who's going to be on that committee. So there'd be no power play going on there, of course. But so that's going to be interesting to do, to see who would be on this committee. And that committee is very powerful. It basically sets everything from tax rates to curriculum to what buildings are being used. One of the things they said in the meeting was the way that these things are successful is you're either eliminating staff members, and that's anywhere from janitor up to superintendent, and that's, you're gonna save money there, or you close buildings. Well, if you look at, in my opinion, if you look at the current schools, I don't see any school that would be closed. Especially if you're talking about just the three districts that are involved. So it'll be interesting to see. So we are scheduled to get all that information together. We will meet again in probably October sometime to get an update. They will then put that together, and then there could possibly be reports to the board during all of this study. Or it's kind of how we want to set it up. So we don't have another meeting set. It was a very good meeting. Everybody was very positive. And then they will be collecting the same data from St. Labor as they collect from us. They'll look at all the districts, even though St. Labor is not included in the study. So I don't know if anybody had any
So
questions.
they don't have like a sample format that they use, that they would, on this timeline, we would normally do this.
No, they had about a 3 or 4 page sheet that they gave us that had a checklist. Basically, it talks about all the different things they're going to look at. And they'll look at everything. They'll look at staffing, they'll look at curriculum, they'll look at transportation, they'll look at all of our budgets, they'll look at outstanding debt, they'll look at other financial obligations that a district may or may not have. And so facilities, they look at pretty much everything, take the data that we give them and the data they can collect online, and they put it together and come up with a recommendation.
I was at the Smith meeting when they had that one, so I heard that part. I just thought they might potentially have a better template on how things would move.
There is a little bit of a timeline that they gave us. I didn't share it tonight, but it's very vague. It's like, you know, this will be done October, November. This will be done November, December. This will be done December, January. It all depends, but they really think they can get this done probably by law they have to have it done by the end of June. But they can get it done, they think, probably sometime in March. And that way we can kind of look at it, and I can't remember when the next election is. If it's November 2018 or if it won't be till, no, it wouldn't be that, would it be, no, it'd be 19. It'd be the spring of 19. So then Smithton would have to decide, you know, what they're gonna do with their building, depending on what happens with this, with the outcome of this. So, that's where we're at on that.
Any questions on that for Mr. Brady? Okay, we'll move on to item E, basement project update.
So that has all been approved, the state superintendent signed off, so we are actually ready to go. As we were looking through the old coal bin, we happened to look through that when the architect and the representative from Brick came in, and it is chock full of junk. There's 5-gallon cans of paint, there's old storage things, and so that has to all be cleaned out. I'm probably getting ahead of myself. One of the things I would like to do is to talk with the excavator and see if they can bring in some kind of attachment to put on their backhoe and bust up that old coal bin, and then just take care of it. Talked to Mike Staub. Mike said that we could probably break it up and break it up in small enough pieces that we could just use it for backfill, so we wouldn't have to haul it out. But we could break it up, pull it away. When the basement company comes in to spray the sealant on the basement walls, they can spray it on that wall. We'd have to bring a mason in to block the wall up, but we could seal the whole thing, and then we get rid of the coal bin. The way the Health, Life, Safety Amendment was written, it's vague enough that we could probably use that money as well. So, anyway, there is any number of, there's a fence, there's a building, a small little shed, all the things that are in that coal bin, all that stuff has to get taken care of and moved. So that's going to take a little bit of time to do that. The air conditioners have to be removed. So Dennis is going to work as a general contractor. He's going to have Bello come out and disconnect, and then the same person that does the excavating is going to remove those and move them away from the wall. So this pushes us back to probably late October, and it actually, I think, works in our favor because the temperature at that time, we could probably go without heating and air conditioning in the basement. And they can, both of the companies, the excavator and the guy that's going to spray the basement, the company that's going to spray the basement can work on the weekend. Dennis has already had it working on the weekend for one of the projects. So I think we can go ahead and get most of that kind of work done on the weekend, which would hopefully eliminate us having to move the classes. So we should be able to get most of this work done on weekends. That'll extend the time it's going to take to get it done. But I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to get this taken care of this spring, and then we can move forward with other fun, exciting things. I don't have any questions.
Any questions on that, Mr. Brady? If not, it looks like we need to go item C, conduct budget hearing regarding fiscal year 2018 budget.
So this is what essentially is the second reading, and I apologize, the budget that was included in the packet said first reading, but it has not been changed from the first reading in August. But it is proper for us to actually, or it's required of us to actually go into a budget hearing. So we'll have to leave this here and go into a budget hearing and then talk about the budget and pass it, hopefully.
Okay, I need a motion to go into the budget hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Reynolds. Second. By Mrs. Staub. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. We're in the budget hearing.
All right, the budget was included in the packet. The 15 or so pages of the breakdown of the budget is unchanged since August. So I think all of you have this summary that's in your packet, that was included in the packet. So a couple of things I just want to point out. The Ed Fund, it looks like we're going to have increase our balance in there, which is nice. Part of that is an anticipated, well, actually, we set this up that we were going to get no extra money from the state. And so this is just trying to, saving a little bit of money on personnel and with some retirements. And then we have some healthy fund balances. I know we had talked about in the Angie's committee, thank you, Strategic Planning Committee, about kind of getting together an idea of what would be a good balance to have. There is a couple other things that are in there. Where's it at? Oh, the bond and interest, $215,000. So that's something we're going to talk about later on. And then we are using most of the torque. That's been a big topic of discussion in the last couple of years. But our overall balance is going to drop a little bit. A big part of that has to do with the health, life, safety. I have us spending almost $740,000 depending on what we do for the big project, for the HVAC project, some of the other projects we've done with health, life, safety. So we're taking a big chunk out of that, and that plays probably the biggest role. And I included a $600,000 cost for the HVAC project. So depending on what we do, I don't think we'll have to make any kind of adjustment at the end. My hope is that we don't have to worry about amending the budget at the end of the year. So I don't know if anybody had any questions on the budget
Any questions?
moving forward.
Answer last time.
Yeah, I guess at this time, I need a motion to come out of the budget hearing. Motion by Mr. McDowell,
Second.
second by Mrs. Miller. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Back into the regular session.
All right, our next step, sorry, Dean, our next step is to, we need to approve and adopt the second reading of the fiscal year 2018.
Motion on that.
I move to approve the second reading and adopt the fiscal year 2018 budget for CHS District 77 as presented in attachment.
Motion by Mrs. Miller,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Stout. We can roll call that. Do the sort of Mr. McDowell. Aye.
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 Motion passes. Okay, looks like item E, bond issue update.
We had, recall we had the two bonds, the 2007, 2011 bonds. We talked at the last meeting on what to do. So I thought I would take a look at the enrollment, and projections of the enrollment are that we are going to get up to about 700 students in the year 2022, and over the next 10 years, we're going to average about 677 students. So, we've been steadily increasing. It looks like we're going to flatline. Several, back in the 2000s, we had almost 750 students in the building. As a teacher, at that time in the building, I will tell you it was very crowded. We got it done, but there was a lot of teachers on cards. So, there's a couple things I think we need to look at before we make a decision to refinance both of the bonds and pick up on the savings that we had talked about. Tom Crabtree from Stevewood talked about, and I have those at the bottom of that item E. So we need to talk about the asbestos situation, what we're going to do with that north end. Are we going to keep the north end? Are we going to move those classrooms to something new? What is our actual capacity? I did play around with some numbers, and if you use every classroom every hour, that would be a total of 840 students. I couldn't imagine 840 students in this building having been through 750. So my recommendation is, because the 2007 bonds are callable now, and we're kind of playing a game of what the tax rates are, what the interest rates are going to do. If they fluctuate enough, we could start losing money on that. But I'm recommending that we go ahead and start the paperwork on the 2007, recalling the 2007 bonds, but hold off the 2011 until we go a couple years, until we see what happens with the enrollment, and then go through our strategic planning to figure out what our next step is with building. Financially, it's probably not going to save us a whole lot of money right now. There would be a big difference between if we refinance it now and it's callable in about 3 years. So, I don't think, it depends on what you guys want to do, but I don't think there's a motion that needs to be made if you agree to refinance the 2007 bonds. It's just a matter of me working with Tom at Stiefel and getting the paperwork together and bring it back and have the board move on that at the next board meeting.
All in agreement on that, or other questions?
I mean, we had this discussion last month. I'd still like to see the savings used to reduce the months. Was that 2007?
we did that. I thought it was gonna save us, if we refinance this, it's basically gonna save us, well, $50,000, depending on the rate.
Right.
But it only shortens the length of it about 6 months.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I would like to use it in that way versus, because we talked about other options too.
Right.
That's the option that I would like to see.
So if we refinance, we're looking at what he thought would be about a $50,000 savings over the life of the bond, and we could probably reduce the length of that bond by 6 months. Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that that's the path we go down.
So that's if we call it. So that's if we go ahead and refinance that bond.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
So we'll hold on to the 2011.
You agree with this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So you don't need any motion? or-
Nope, I will just get a hold of Tom and we'll start the paperwork, and that'll probably be something for us to do at the next meeting, because I was a little worried, October seems slow.
You want to come in for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Item F, bond and interest fund balance.
So the other thing we had talked about was that bond and interest fund balance, and just to kind of remind everybody, that is a fund balance that accumulates over time. The county sets the rate on that bond, and part of it is they set it up a little higher to make sure they can collect, that they can cover all the uncollectible taxes. I think our folks do a pretty nice job paying the taxes. And so over a period of years, there was a couple other things the federal government had done that helped us out. It is accumulated to a balance of $216,000. So at the last board meeting, I was asked to take a look at what the benefit would be or the impact would be to taxpayers, and then look at some of the items. So I literally sat down one afternoon and just started writing some things down. So there's about 12 or 14 items that I think that money could be used for. And then as far as the impact on the taxpayers, when you go back and you calculate on our current EAV what $216,000 is worth, it comes out to be about 8.2 cents. And so when you look at what 8.2 cents does for a taxpayer, it works out to be about $27 on a $100,000 home, and about $55 on a $200,000 home. And remember, this is a one-time only savings. So the next year, it's just going to go back up.
Discussion.
I wasn't done.
Oh, he wasn't done. Oh,
I'm just drinking.
I thought that was done.
No, sorry. So, and we could debate all night whether or not $27 and $55 is a lot of money, for people, but $216,000 would do a whole heck of a lot for this building. And we've spent quite a lot of time in the last several months talking about all the different things that we need to do for this building. Son's pointing to me. My recommendation is, again, I don't think a motion is needed. My recommendation is that we put together basically a resolution and for the taxpayers to say, yes, we're going to go ahead and keep this money, and then we're going to designate it for, maybe we make a list like this and say, this is what we are saying to you, the taxpayer, that this money is going to be used for. It's not going to be used for anything else except this stuff. And then I can go through, again, working with Tom, we would have to work up, it is a working cash bond sale, and that sometimes has a bad name to it. But we could do a working cash bond sale, which would then be paid off immediately after you go to the courthouse and use that money from the bond and interest bond and pay off that working cash bond sale. So that's what I would like to do, and my recommendation to you guys is that's what we do, steps we take, and keep for that money.
Now we have a discussion.
The only thing is about the amount. So as we talked last time, what are you thinking, 150?
I think that full 216.
I,
Or
but
do
then
you think we want to?
If for some reason the EAV goes down, for whatever reason, short.
No, I mean, I could look at, you know, it's pretty easy, you could look at what the EAV is and then what that 2,000 or 216,000 would do and figure out how much you need. But, I mean, I want to get as much as I can. You know, if we leave 10,000 in there, you know, we look at, we know what the bond and interest, and that is an uncapped. So the way that levy works is we tell them the actual cash that we need. It's not really based on the EAV. If the EAV goes down, then the rate goes up to cover that cash. But we're setting the cash amount. So we're gonna know how much cash we need to cover that bond and interest. That's already worked out. And so that's what the county is supposed to set it at. So it's not really where there shouldn't be a risk of a shortfall in that fund. If it was a cap fund, then we're working with rates as opposed to just a cash dollar value.
Going back to my other comments earlier in the financial committee meeting months ago, is that I don't want the rates to go up as a whole. That's all I'm saying. Right?
And we have no control over that rate. You know, all the uncapped, I mean, we have control because we can set a dollar value. But we know, on that one in particular, we know exactly what the dollar value is. And we're just kind of prisoners to whatever the EAV comes out at, is what the rate's gonna be. So we don't really have control over that particular rate. So there's other things, you know, like the IMRF, we're gonna talk about that later, we've got control over that rate. We can lower that. This one, the county sets. But they set it based on how much money it says the bond and interest payments are gonna be.
I mean, I understand how it works.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe the way I intend to try to push the process this year is, once we set the rate in the fall, that we go back in March, find out what the EAV actually is, so that we could adjust the rate only if the rate is at that time higher than it was last year, so that the taxpayers don't have to pay an additional amount of money for their homes for this year. With a 12% increase 2 years ago and a 10% last year, I think that we should be able to stay flat. I think you did a really good job last year saving money, and we're gonna use some of that money on the building, but ultimately, I wanna see the rate not go up. And I understand it's a backwards process.
Right.
You ask for this money, and then they have to go calculate, and then once they calculate, then we'll have to look at it and see if we need to adjust to get the rates to match. And that's what March is about.
Sure, and I understand that and not disagreeing, but in this particular fund, we can't use it for anything else. It's not like that if the, let's say, let's not use 50,000, keep 50,000 in there. We can't just simply, we'd have to go through this whole process again and do a working cash bond sale to get whatever that balance is to cover other things. So it's not like we can just easily transfer this money. There's a process that we have to go through. So this one, we're kind of tied. There's other funds that we have more flexibility. What's that?
We could change the amount we ask for when we have the opportunity in March,
We could, yes.
and then that would change the rate.
Yes, we could. So that was the other option, is that we don't take this money and use it, and we use that to help pay off the funds. It would drop our rate, but again, but the savings is minimal, and you know, in my opinion.
I'm just saying that to leave a little bit in there to make sure that we can stay flat wouldn't be a bad thing. I understand that you're gonna say you want every nickel, and I'm gonna say I don't want a tax increase.
Right. But my whole point is, this isn't what's gonna, well, no, this isn't anything that we have control over.
It does. I mean, if you ask for the number, and that backs into the rate, we do have control.
Sure. But then what is the impact? The only thing we can use that for is this. So it's not like we can use it for anything else. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with that too.
All right. So all I'm asking for is for you to, let me go ahead and, put some numbers together and, bring it back to you in October with the idea that we're gonna try to use as much of that money as possible.
Mike, what are you what would make you feel more how much money do you think we need to leave in there? What would make you feel comfortable?
We had a conversation last month, we talked about the 150, leaving the rest in there. That way it could be adjusted on our rate in the spring if we need to make an adjustment. And it's, I mean, if
It
we
just-
see next year that, we don't have that risk, we can always go back to get it.
No, the way I understand it, I could be wrong, even if we took the whole entire amount, all it's gonna save us is on $100,000 home, $27. That's, I don't know how much.
It's one of the,
Even if we have $50,000 left in there, there's not enough, that doesn't give enough room to even give, $4 back to the people? And I realize maybe $4 is $4, but when we can use
I'm
it
just
for
saying, it is one
HVAC
of the,
system or
it
something.
is one of the buckets that we can manipulate to adjust the rate. Okay, IMRF we can, and this one we can. Tort we can.
Manipulation is really, really, really.
I was
It
gonna
is,
say,
I'm not looking at
$4 is a
one.
whole lot. Especially when we know there's so much that needs to be done in the building.
I'll do 180. I'll split it.
Negotiating now?
We need to come to some kind of agreement here.
I agree.
Right now, I guess, are we agreeing for Greg to go and look at things and get costs and things for us to come back with? Maybe then we look at the list and prioritize.
I mean, I could ask him to kind of put some numbers together for, 214, 213, whatever we need.
We are negotiating.
But, so we can look at numbers, it's just,
It
There's
seems
another way you can look at this.
negligible.
Another way you can look at this is take your list, how much does each one cost? We could look at the list and say we want number one, we want number 4, and we want number 5, this is how much it costs. That's a harder way, I think, for him to get to the end result, but we could do that.
We've easily got $216,000 worth of approved.
Right, there's more than that in this.
And that, just that list, yes.
Right, so you can select items from there and decide which one you want to get. It's another way to approach it.
Well, this would.
I just don't want to
need
need
a,
I still don't think we need a motion. I'll come up with, some options.
This is not a timeline issue here, so
basically,
Isn't it in November? Don't we have to have it figured out by November?
it's.
This says, this has
Oh,
another,
no, that's the other one.
to set,
Okay.
yeah,
That's the levy.
November and December, we set the levy, but that doesn't affect the balance.
basically, you wanting, basically an agreement to move on, like to do.
Yeah, and I'll just bring back
Okay,
options.
So we're not talking any numbers for this anyway, so are we in agreement to let him go ahead and do that?
Option fit.
Okay. You can start.
Correct. I wrote it down there.
Item G, boiler HVAC update.
Mike talked about this in his committee update, and so I think what we've decided to do is to have our architect bring in a structural engineer and look at the option, on the one option, to see what we would need to upgrade the structure in the Hall of Fame, if we could possibly put the units on the Hall of Fame. We also want to look at all the different options and eliminate all the asbestos that has to do with those, HVAC units, whether we do one option or another. And so I'm planning on bringing some numbers back in October, hopefully, and giving a better idea for everybody and try to compare everything on the same set of guidelines. So no motion.
Okay, any other discussion anybody have on that subject? Okay, if not, we'll go to new business, use of building by walkers for the 2017-18 school year.
We've been doing this for probably about 15 years now. We open up the building a little early to allow walkers to come through. If you look on the next page, this is the notice that was put in the Tribune. Will be put in the Tribune, I guess. Wasn't put in yet, right? Yeah, it'll be put in the Tribune. And so the building is opened up at 6 o'clock. We asked them to use it till 7:30, and we get probably about 4 or 5 folks coming in and using it, and we have not had any kind of issues at all, and so I would like for us to do that again.
Discussion. Not, we need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. McDowell,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Staub. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Recognition of parent support groups for 2017-18 school year.
This is something that I probably should have done back in July, but we have 2 different groups that are recognized by the school, the Midget Athletic Boosters and the Music Youth Boosters. And so they are officially recognized as parent support organizations. And I would like for them to be recognized again this year, and make a note to myself to do this earlier than this.
Any discussion? If not, I need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Reynolds,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Miller. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Approved district Title I plan.
Each year, we have to put together a Title I plan. Title I is federal money that we get, almost $58,000 that we have to use for special education and teacher professional development. We have to put a plan together. It has to be approved by the board. The plan is included. Jane has done quite a bit of work on this. This is kind of interesting because we put it, sent it to the state through IWAS, and it never fails. They send it back and tell you that you did something wrong. So it's just job security for Ms. Mead. So I need you guys to approve this so that we can officially have our plan approved.
Discussion. Not, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. McDowell,
Second.
second by Mrs. Staub. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Where's the other one? There it is. Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, early retirement incentives.
IMRF is the retirement fund used by all of our non-certified employees. Districts historically have used this early retirement incentive as a cost savings over time. They can have employees take advantage of a early retirement incentive, and they can retire a few years earlier, and then we can bring in people for a little bit less money. It is not we're not trying to force anybody out. It actually works to both the school districts and the employees' benefit. But the way this works is you have to pass a resolution. The resolution is included. It is a 1-year window. So anybody that qualifies, you have to have at least 20 years in IMRF to qualify. They can apply and retire under this program. You can only offer this every 5 years. So if we open this up October 1st, we wouldn't be able to open it up again until the year 2022, something like that. There is a cost to the district. The district could pay their cost through the IMRF levy. We already have enough levied in the IMRF levy that the district would not have to increase their rates at all. That is something that we would look at during the levy. We would probably actually be able to decrease our rates and still pay for this. There are 3 current employees that would be eligible. I have spoken with all 3. One is a definite yes, the other 2 are I'm not sure. Once and if the district approves the IMRF ERI, Then a representative from IMRF will come in and meet with the employees once they've decided they would like to investigate retirement. Then they will be told what their cost, because there is a cost to the employee as well. And then they send their letter to the district saying they're retiring to let us know. I think this is one of the things in the that we look at. IMRF's program they put together is if you can save 30%, it's usually a pretty good idea. Through the first 5 years, we would save 30% on if those employees retired. The savings, long-term savings is going to be even greater than that, because if you hire somebody at a lower salary, they're going to continue to have a lower salary than the person that left. So I'm recommending that we, the district adopts this resolution, and we can move forward and offer this one-year window starting October 1st.
Any discussion? If not, I need a motion to adopt the early retirement incentive resolution. Moved by Mrs. Stout,
Second.
second by Mr. Madrell. I believe we need to roll call that one. We'll roll call. We'll start with Mrs. Miller.
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Where's that other? Oh,
And then we just
Looks like we're down
have
to-
board correspondence.
Okay, board correspondence out here.
We got a nice letter from Barb Boyer, who is a FCHS alumni, former teacher, and I'd like to read it. It says, Mr. Frakin and FCHS Board of Education. It was dated September 7th. She says, I trained for Senior Olympics on the track for several hours most days of the week. Thank you for that opportunity. I have witnessed several positive changes during the summer. Dennis Tolman, the lawn mowing crews have improved the school's grounds immensely. The lawn has not looked this immaculate in many years. FCHS should be proud of the crew's continued effort because the school looks very well kept and manicured to a T. Edging, weeds, knocked down, not just sprayed and left standing brown and ugly. Continue on. The band director, Mrs. Megan Mitchell, has her students out on the football field practicing their program well before school starts and then back out there at it again first hour. The students work hard without complaining. As a former PE teacher and coach of 35 years, I noticed the great rapport she has with her students and the respect the students have for Miss Mitchell. She expects much of her students and has them practice a pattern until they have it correct. This is done without the students moaning and groaning. While on the field, it is all work. At the end of the session, the students know their chores and just do them. When finished and ready to go indoors, the students gather around Miss Mitchell to chit-chat and have some fun while walking back to the building. Band director and band students' dedication. As a former educator and FCHS alumni, I thought I would let you know the positives I witnessed at FCHS. It makes it very proud to see these positives. Please let these folks know. Don't wait till they retire or leave to tell them. People notice their efforts and appreciate their contribution to the great workings at FCHS. A positive note to a worker goes a very long way, and in turn will give back much more. Sincerely, UB Fit 2, Barb Boyer, 75. And I have sent that note to both those folks. So they both have done an outstanding job. So that was a very nice note for them.
Okay, we're down to agenda items, which I believe were none.
Done.
And at this time, I will need a motion to go into closed session. We just need to read up what we need.
And it's for topics related to personnel selection, employment, compensation, evaluations, benefits, employees, real estate, student matters, and litigation.
Motion.
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Miller,
Second.
second by Mr., I'll think of your name in a minute. Reynolds. He's a
We need to turn all around.
Okay, start the voting with me. Aye.
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 Motion passes. We're now in closed session.
You want to do this?
Oh, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. So, I move to approve the, to rehire all spring coaches.
Motion.
So
Moved by Mrs. Stout,
Second.
Second by Mr. McDowell. Do we need to roll call it? No, yet, no. Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
I move to approve the fall volunteer coaches as presented.
Motion. Moved by Mrs. Miller. I thought I seen you wave your hand.
That's fine, I'll think, it was actually gonna fly away, but.
Oh. You're lucky it's not an auction. And second by Mr. McGraw. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
And I move to set the Saturday scholar stipend for the 17-18 school year at $540.
Need a motion?
And this will be a roll call.
I'll motion.
Motion by Mrs. Miller,
Second.
second by Mrs. Staub. We start roll call with Mrs. Staub on that.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. McGraw,
Second.
second by Mr. Reynolds. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.